Welcome back to another edition of Take Five. And I had a really good time with you and your sister yesterday. Um, Started off rough, but it worked out. But anyway, we're here in verse 11 of Leviticus 16. And I said we're going to go through this whole chapter because there's some important things here. All right. Verse 11, Aaron shall bring the bull for his own sin offering to make atonement for himself and his household, and he is to slaughter the bull for his own sin offering. Goat milk. All right. This is important because in comparison to Jesus, see, Aaron had sinned too. Even the high priest was a sinner, so he had to make an offering for his own sin. Jesus had no sin. So Jesus could offer himself for all of our sins. That's why he's the only one that could ever do that, because he's the only one that ever sinned. See, verse 12, he is to take, talking about Aaron, a censer full of burning coals from the altar before the Lord and 2 handfuls of finely ground fragrant incense and take them behind the curtain. He is to put the incense on the fire before the Lord, and the smoke of the incense will conceal the atonement cover above the tablets of the covenant law so that he will not die. Now, I'm not sure exactly why that if you could see the atonement cover, he would die, but God said he would, so he had to cover it up. Verse 14, he is to take some of the bull's blood and with his finger sprinkle it on the front of the atonement cover. Then he shall sprinkle some of it with his finger 7 times before the atonement cover. So you got blood on top of it and blood in front of it. Verse 15, he shall then slaughter the goat for the sin offering for the people and take its blood. So he's offering the bull for himself, and he's slaughtering the goat for the people. Slaughters the goat for sin offering for the people and take its blood behind the curtain and do with it as he did with the bull's blood. He shall sprinkle it on the atonement cover and in front of it. In this way he will make atonement for the most holy place because of the uncleanness and rebellion of the Israelites, whatever their sins have been. So we got to make the most holy place isn't really all that holy because of the sin of the people. So even the blood, even the most holy place had to be cleansed. Verse 17, no one is to be in the tent of meeting from the time Aaron goes in to make atonement in the most holy place until he comes out having made atonement for himself, his household, and the whole community of Israel. And let me tell you something. The people were so scared of what could happen, and they definitely did not ever go in during this process. But they knew how holy God was, and the fact is, if the high priest could die while he was in there, they would tie a rope around his ankle, and so they could, if he did die, they could pull him out, so they wouldn't have to go in and get him. That was how concerned they were about that. Verse 18, then he shall come out to the altar. So he's the only guy that could go in there, and he had to do all this other stuff when he got there. Verse 18, then he shall come out to the altar that is before the Lord and make atonement for it. He shall take some of the bull's blood and some of the goat's blood and put it on all the horns of the altar. So he's got the blood representing sacrifice of his own sin and all the sin of the people from the goat. He shall sprinkle some of the blood on it with his finger 7 times to cleanse it and to consecrate it from the uncleanness of the Israelites. All right, we're going to stop right there. But you can see he's going to make sacrifice and atonement for his own sins, for the sins of the people, bull for himself, goat for the others. But the fact is that it required blood, a lot of blood, because there's a lot of sin. And aren't you thankful we had one perfect man, God's Son, sacrifice himself? We don't have to sacrifice animals anymore. And he did it one time. We don't have to do it every year like they did. Aren't you glad? But hey, we're going to be back in verse 20 of Leviticus 16 next time. Thank you for watching this edition of Take 5.